Spoštovane gospe, spoštovani gospodje, velik in lep pozdrav na dnevu slovenskega lesarstva. To je prvi osrednji nacionalni dogodek slovenske lesne industrije, ki želi po eni strani ponuditi vrsto strokovnih odgovorov na vprašanja v zvezi z lesom, po drugi pa ustvariti in utrditi naš odnos do tega gradbenega materiala prihodnosti. Dogodek letos poteka pod naslovom Les, naša zelena prihodnost. Danes spoznavamo les v vseh svojih čudovitih obrazih, kot aktivni blažilec podnebnih sprememb, kot prijetni in zdravi spremljevalec naših bivalnih prostorov, kot gradbeni material, ki omogoča tudi najbolj drzne gradbene podvige, kot požarno in potresno varen element, predvsem pa kot prvinski, univerzalen in zdravju prijazen naravni material, ki ga imamo v Sloveniji dovolj in pred nosom. Slovenija je tretja najbolj gozdnata država v Evropi. V naših gozdovih na prebivalca letno priraste 4 kubične metre lesa, uporabimo pa ga le pol kubičnega metra na prebivalca. Današnji dogodek poteka popolnoma virtualno in varno, zato zdaj prav tako nadaljavo pozdravljam prvega govornika, to je minister Republike Slovenije za gospodarski razvoj in tehnologijo, gospod Zdravko Počivalšek.
Spoštovani predstavniki lesne industrije, drage gospe in gospodje. Lepo pozdravljeni na dnevu slovenskega lesarstva, nacionalnem strokovnem dogodku slovenske lesne industrije, ki ga Ministrstvo za gospodarski razvoj in tehnologijo skupaj z agencijo Spirit letos organizira prvič. Veseli me, da nam je uspelo organizirati dogodek na področju lesno-predelovalne industrije, ki je za Slovenijo izrednega pomena. Vsem organizatorjem in sodelujočim čestitam za vztrajnost in pogum, da ste ga kljub epidemiji in trenutnim razmeram uspeli organizirati. Z dnevom slovenskega lesarstva utiramo nove poti v slovenski lesni industriji. Les namreč že nekaj časa ni zgolj kurilno sredstvo, temveč ima veliko uporabnost in namembnost v leseni gradnji in izdelkih z visoko dodano vrednostjo. Je tudi naravno obnovljiv vir, ki v okviru Evropskega zelenega dogovora omogoča zeleni preboj slovenske industrije in znižanje emisij toplogrednih plinov. Zakaj trdimo, da je les naše naravno bogastvo in naša zelena prihodnost? Ker postaja pomembna strateška surovina, ki jo Slovenija kot tretja najbolj obdarjena država z lesom v Evropi lahko dobro izkoristi. Letno priraste 9 milijonov kubičnih metrov lesa, od tega smo lani posekali 5,3 milijone kubičnih metrov, doma predelali približno 2 milijona kubičnih metrov hlodovine, izvozili pa smo skoraj 3 milijone kubičnih metrov lesa skupaj z lesnimi odpadki. Na Ministrstvu za gospodarski razvoj in tehnologijo si zato prizadevamo za večjo predelavo lesa v končne izdelke z visoko dodano vrednostjo in v okolju prijazni proizvodnji. Spodbudno je, da v zadnjih letih lesna industrija skupaj s pohištveno beleži pozitivne trende. Od leta 2010 do 2019 se je povečalo število podjetij za 14%, prihodki od prodaje so porasli za 35%, ter dodana vrednost na zaposlenega za 73%. Pri tem moramo upoštevati tudi multiplikativne učinke, ki jih prinaša lesna industrija. Nanjo so namreč vezane še druge panoge, kot so celulozna, papirna industrija, del gradbeništva in storitvene dejavnosti. Vse panoge povezane z lesom tako skupaj dosegajo okoli 2,6 milijard evrov prihodkov od prodaje letno. Razvojni potencial in pomen lesne panoge je izjemen. Tako z vidika pozitivnih okoljskih in ekonomskih vplivov zagotavljanja večje samooskrbe in samozadostnosti, kakor tudi z vidika širšega družbenega pomena. Lesno panogo zato podpiramo z različnimi spodbudami. Trenutno je aktualen že 4. razpis za razvoj in uvajanje novih produktov v lesarstvu v vrednosti 6,2 milijona evrov, povečali pa smo jih še za dodatna 2 milijona evrov. Preko sklada za okrevanje in odpornost bomo lesni industriji neposredno namenili 26 oziroma 28 milijonov evrov nepovratnih sredstev in 60 milijonov evrov povratnih sredstev. V pogajanjih smo tudi za zagotovitev dodatnih virov v okviru naslednje finančne perspektive 2021-2027. Naša podpora gre tudi v smeri regionalnih in nacionalnih ukrepov, ki bodo imeli pozitiven učinek na razvoj regij. Skupaj z domačimi in tujimi partnerji pa bomo vzpostavili vsaj 4 večje lokacije za predelavo lesa, ki bodo postali regijski pospeševalci razvoja lesne verige. Lesno industrijo smo umestili tudi v novo slovensko industrijsko strategijo 2021-2030 v posebno poglavje znotraj področja zelenega razvoja. Naši cilji do leta 2030 so količino doma predelanega lesa povečati na 3 milijone kubičnih metrov letno, povečati prihodke od prodaje v lesni panogi na 2,5 milijard evrov letno in število zaposlenih na vsaj 15 tisoč. To bomo dosegli tudi z naložbami, ki jih je vlada uvrstila med prioritetne strateške naložbe. Med njimi je 7 lesno-predelovalnih centrov, katerih skupna investicijska vrednost presega 140 milijonov evrov. Verjamem, da nam bo s skupnimi močmi uspelo povzdigniti lesno industrijo med najbolj rastoče panoge pri nas in ob tem obvarovati našo naravo. Zato podpiramo slovensko gospodarstvo in uporabimo slovenski les. To je naša naravna zelena danost, ki nam bo prinesla izjemno strateško in konkurenčno prednost. Najlepša hvala.
Najlepša hvala, gospod Zdravko Počivavšek. Sledi pa še nekaj uvodnih nagovorov. Najprej k besedi vabim gospoda Danila Antona Ranca, generalnega direktorja Direktorata za lesarstvo na Ministrstvu za gospodarski razvoj in tehnologijo Republike Slovenije.
Spoštovani minister za gospodarstvo, tehnologijo in razvoj, gospod Zdravko Počivavšek, spoštovani direktor Spirita, dr. Tomaž Kostanjevec, predstavnik gospodarske zbornice Igor Milavec, predsednik upravnega odbora lesarjev pri gospodarski zbornici Bogdan Božac in predsednik obrtne zbornice Slovenije, gospod Branko Meh. Spoštovani predavatelji in vsi, ki nas danes spremljate. Vsem prav lep pozdrav tudi v imenu Direktorata za lesarstvo. Danes je pomemben dan za slovensko lesno industrijo. Pričenjamo premierni dan slovenskega lesarstva, ki je vrhunec letošnjih promocijskih aktivnosti o prednostih uporabe lesa, ki poteka pod našim sloganom Uporabimo slovenski les. Kljub epidemiji smo zbrali pogum in s trdno voljo in trmo organizirali prvi dan slovenskega lesarstva, ki bo postal, upam, vsakoletni osrednji dogodek lesarjev. Veseli me, da smo zbrali vse deležnike, agencijo Spirit, obe zbornici, ki sta sodelovali pri pripravi dogodka, kajti le skupaj in povezani bomo lesni industriji povrnili ugled in pomen. Kot bomo slišali strani domačih in tujih predavateljev, je les trajnostni material, ki omogoča veliko načinov uporabe in ima kot surovina velik razvojni potencial za našo državo. Pomembno je, da les prvenstveno prepoznavamo kot material za industrijsko predelavo in ne kot energent. Les je torej ni samo kurivo, ni samo deska, to je plemenit naravni material, ki z dodano vrednostjo v izdelkih dolgoročno veže CO2 in znižuje emisije toplogrednih plinov. Pomembno je tudi, da predelava lesa poteka tam, kjer les nastaja. Tako bomo ustvarili delovna mesta na podeželju in oživili lokalno gospodarstvo, kar bo omogočilo enakomeren razvoj regij. Lesna panoga je pomembna tudi za prehod v podnebno nevtralno krožno gospodarstvo, saj je za pridelavo lesa potrebno veliko manj energije kot za ostale materiale. Poleg omenjenih promocijskih in drugih aktivnosti podpiramo razvoj lesne industrije z različnimi razpisi za finančne podpore. Spodbujamo leseno gradnjo preko uredbe o zelenem javnem naročanju, porabo sredstev podnebnega sklada in ekosklada za spodbujanje pridelave lesa in pa podporo investicijam po zakonu o regionalnem razvoju in zakonu o investicijah. Ker pa ima današnji dogodek tudi mednarodno dimenzijo. Naj omenim, da je pomen lesa izpostavila tudi predsednica Evropske komisije Ursula von der Leyen. V prvem nagovoru v Evropskem parlamentu je poudarila, da lahko gradbeništvo spremenimo iz vira emisij v pomemben ponor ogljika, če uporabimo naravne materiale, kot je les v leseni gradnji. To je pomembna strateška odločitev za Slovenijo in tudi dokaz, da smo s podporo lesni industriji in leseni gradnji na pravi poti. Prisluhnimo torej strokovnjakom ter naredimo predboj tako pri pohištveni industriji kot pri leseni gradnji. Izmenjajmo dobre prakse in izkušnje in uporabimo slovenski les. Naj postane današnji dogodek tradicionalen in naj na tej priložnosti tudi vljudno vabim na naslednji dan slovenskega lesarstva v letu 2021. Hvala lepa.
Najlepša hvala, gospod Ranc. Zdaj pa besedo predajam doktorju Tomažu Kostanjevcu, vršilcu dolžnosti direktorja javne agencije Spirit Slovenija.
Spoštovani, lepo pozdravljeni tudi v mojem imenu. Kot sta že moja predhodnika povedala, je les strateška surovina, lesarstvo pa paradni konj zelene industrije v Sloveniji. Zato naša agencija Spirit Slovenija skupaj z Direktoratom za lesarstvo že od leta 2014 izvaja vrsto aktivnosti za promocijo slovenskega lesa in lesenih izdelkov, doma in v tujini. V tem času smo organizirali veliko število različnih odmevnih dogodkov, konferenc, seminarjev, razprav, gospodarskih delegacij, skupinskih sejemskih nastopov, razstav, predstavitev in delavnic ter TV oddaj za različne ciljne skupine. Z njimi si prizadevamo za pozitivno podobo lesa v splošni in strokovni javnosti ter krepimo zavedanje o lesu. Obenem pa spodbujamo uporabo lesa tako pri gradnji objektov kot pri uporabi v vsakdanjem življenju ter usmerjamo pozornost širše domače in tuje javnosti tudi na kakovostno slovensko arhitekturo. Promociji in ozaveščanju o prednosti rabe lesa in lesnih izdelkov ter pomenu te strateške surovine je namenjen tudi ta današnji prvi dan slovenskega lesarstva. Na njem bomo poleg strokovnih predavanj domačih in tujih predavateljev o stanju panoge v Sloveniji ter globalnih in evropskih, pa tudi regionalnih trendih lesarske industrije, med drugim predstavili tudi primere dobrih praks in finančne spodbude. Na okrogli mizi o priložnosti zelene industrije pa si bomo lahko ustvarili celovito sliko o možnostih za nadaljnji razvoj slovenskega lesarstva in z njim povezanih panog. Naj poudarim, da bodo vmes potekale tudi virtualna mednarodna poslovna srečanja med podjetji s področja pohištva in lesene gradnje ter opreme. Kot je že prej omenil pred mano spoštovani gospod Ranc, bomo dogodek zaključili s slavnostno razglasitvijo nagrajencev našega natečaja za leseno gradnjo 2020 za objekte, ki so bili zgrajeni v zadnjih 5 letih. S podelitvijo priznanj želimo doseči več ciljev. Eden je promocija lesa v gradbene namene, torej spodbujati arhitekte, naročnike in izvajalce k uporabi lesa pri njihovih projektih. Drugi je potencialnim uporabnikom približati področje lesene gradnje, da bodo tako dobivali ali delali v zdravem bivalnem okolju. Z vsem tem pa posredno vplivamo tudi na izboljšanje stanja slovenske lesno-predelovalne industrije ter prispevamo k prehodu Slovenije v nizkoogljično družbo. Projekti lesene gradnje, ki so sodelovali na našem natečaju, se močno razlikujejo po izvedbi in namembnosti. Vsi pa so odličen pokazatelj, kaj vse se da narediti s premišljeno, kreativno in trajnostno uporabo lesa in dokazujejo, da je les primeren material za tako za stanovanjske, javne, industrijske, gospodarske kot tudi druge objekte. Les je namreč naraven, topel material, ki ponuja bogat in prijeten ambient ter omogoča hitro gradnjo, predvsem pa veliko prilagodljivost različnim arhitekturnim zahtevam in željam uporabnikov. Ob tej priložnosti smo izdali tudi brošuro vseh prijavljenih objektov z naslovom Les je enako lep oziroma zares, ki je tudi na voljo na naši spletni strani, malo pa jo bomo dobili tudi v tiskani obliki. Zavedamo se, da lesena gradnja ni samo trenutna smernica, temveč predstavlja izjemno okoljsko, socialno in gospodarsko priložnost. Veseli nas, da v zadnjih letih opažamo povečano zanimanje za gradnjo lesenih objektov tudi pri nas, kar je posledica večje ozaveščenosti investitorjev in splošnega zavedanja o pomenu kakovostnega bivanja ter uporabe lesa v bivanjskem okolju. Naj za konec postrežem še s podatkom, da je naša agencija v letošnjem letu za promocijske aktivnosti z področja lesarstva namenila nekaj čez 200 000 evrov. V prihodnjem letu bomo tako sredstva kot aktivnosti okrepili in sistematično pristopili k oblikovanju promocijske kampanje za les, katere zametki so pričeli nastajati že letos, in sicer v okviru teh 3 oddaj, TV Ambienti, promocijskega videa o lesu in promocijskega videa prireditve Čar lesa 2020. Z vsem naštetim bomo krepili trg za lesne izdelke in storitve tako doma kot v tujini, saj želimo, da bi se ljudje zavestno odločali za uporabo izdelkov ter gradnjo objektov iz lesa. To je še zlasti aktualno v času, ko smo soočeni s pandemijo in vse večjimi prizadevanji za varovanje okolja in bojem proti podnebnim spremembam. Prepričan sem, da ima Slovenija s svojim lesnim bogastvom neizmerne možnosti za izhod iz gospodarske in okoljske krize. Hvala za pozornost.
Hvala tudi vam, gospod Kostanjevec. Zdaj nas bo nagovoril gospod Bogdan Božac, predsednik upravnega odbora Strateško-razvojno-inovacijskega partnerstva Pametne stavbe in dom z lesno verigo.
Spoštovani udeleženci Dneva slovenskega lesarstva, lepo pozdravljeni. Danes smo priča prvemu dnevu slovenskega lesarstva in ta bo izveden online, digitalno. Lahko je to naključje, vendar nam prav način, na katerega bo opravljena današnja razprava, kaže usmeritev našega delovanja v prihodnje. Nakazuje nam permanentno potrebo po uvajanju novih tehnologij v naše delo in delovne procese, komunikacijo s kupci, poslovnimi partnerji in tako dalje. In zato je uvedba novih tehnologij, digitalizacije in predvsem neprestano prilagajanje vedno novim okoliščinam ključna za naše uspešno poslovanje. Lesarstvo je mogoče v marsičem dojeto kot precej tradicionalna gospodarska panoga, vendar je hkrati tudi panoga prihodnosti. Nenazadnje je tudi predsednica Evropske komisije, gospa Ursula von der Leyen, oziroma Evropska komisija kot takšna, vključevanje lesa v gradbeništvo označila kot eno ključnih področij uresničevanja Evropskega zelenega dogovora. In tudi zato je les eno izmed 3 ključnih področij v okviru Strateško-razvojno-inovacijskega partnerstva Pametne stavbe in dom z lesno verigo. V okviru navedenega partnerstva delujejo poleg lesa naslednja ključna področja: pametne naprave in sistemi, aktivno upravljanje stavb in napredni nebiogeni gradbeni materiali. In v okviru tega smo prav les uveljavili kot osrednji integracijski element, okoli katerega se lahko povezujejo tudi ostali partnerji. Vendar se je naše delo tukaj šele začelo. Pred nami so ključne naloge, ki jih bo potrebno uresničiti za to, da bo les kot material dobil mesto, ki mu glede na vse njegove pozitivne lastnosti resnično pripada. Zato bo potrebno nujno uvesti nekatere spremembe. Nujno potrebno bo razširiti uporabo lesa v okviru uredbe o zelenem javnem naročanju, kjer je les trenutno povsem potisnjen na obrobje. Nujno potrebno bo zagotoviti tudi primerno vrednotenje lesa v okviru kazalnikov lesene trajnostne gradnje, tako jih imenovanih levelsov. In potrebno bo nadaljevati z sedaj že zelo pozitivnimi praksami se strani Ekosklada, ki se nanašajo na gradnjo lesenih objektov in gradnjo lesenega stavbnega pohištva. In šele potem bomo videli, kako uspešni smo na teh področjih, in potem se bo presojala naša uspešnost in uspešnost današnjega dneva slovenskega lesarstva. Vsem želim veliko spoznanj in uspešnega dela.
Hvala lepa, gospod Božac. Na vrsti pa je gospod Igor Milavec, direktor Združenja lesne in pohištvene industrije pri Gospodarski zbornici Slovenije.
Spoštovani kolegi, lesarji in vsi ostali. Mislim, da vsi, ki delamo v lesno-predelovalni panogi, smo lahko ponosni na zadnja leta, ko panoga raste praktično po vseh gospodarskih kazalcih, ko se lahko pohvalimo praktično s podvojitvijo dodane vrednosti na zaposlenega, ko hitro raste predelava lesa v Sloveniji in je tako že bistveno večja kot količina predelane hlodovine doma kot v izvozu. In ponosni smo lahko tudi na to, ker je panoga uvrščena med strateške panoge, kar nam dokazuje slovenska industrijska strategija in vključenost v SRIP-e, konkretno v SRIP pametne stavbe in dom z lesno verigo. Seveda pa je tudi veliko skrbi. Prvič skrbijo nas posledice epidemije, skrbi nas, kako bo z nadaljnjim uveljavljanjem zakonodaje minimalne plače, ki ni samo umetno dvignila stroškov dela, ampak je tudi porušila sisteme nagrajevanja in vpeljala uravnilovko, zato je toliko bolj nujno njena zamrznitev nadaljnjega izvajanja. In na nek način je skrb tudi to, ali bomo uspeli dovolj hitro posodabljati tehnologijo in znanje, ki je povsem z digitalizacijo postalo res ena izjemna pomembna vrlina in zato tudi tako računamo na tale naš izobraževalni program KOC LES 3. Vsekakor pa mislim, da ne glede na vse, da če kdo lahko gleda z optimizmom naprej, smo to gotovo lahko lesarji. Kajti tako Evropska unija kot Slovenija je les postavila v samo središče reševanja toplogrednih plinov. In v tem smislu lahko računamo na številne javne razpise, na številne priložnosti in to nam daje tudi moč, da se lahko srečujemo tudi z vsemi težavami in izzivi, ki jih prinaša sedanjost. Verjamem in upam, da bomo uspeli tudi v prihodnjih letih poiskati dovolj energije, dovolj moči, da se daj res te ugodne tokove, ki nam prihajajo iz Evropske unije, v polnosti uveljavimo in dosežemo v naslednjih letih še hitrejšo rast. Tako da vse prav lepo pozdravljam in želim en lep dan lesarstva. Hvala lepa.
Hvala tudi vam, gospod Milavec. Tu pa so še pozdravne besede, ki nam jih bo namenil gospod Branko Meh, predsednik Obrtno-podjetniške zbornice Slovenije.
Spoštovane, dovolite, da vas pozdravim v imenu Obrtno-podjetniške zbornice Slovenije. Danes želim spregovoriti par besed o lesno-predelovalni industriji in seveda o lesarski dejavnosti v Republiki Sloveniji. Slovenija je več kot polovico pokrita z gozdovi, tako z iglavci kot z licavci. Zato ima Slovenija to velik potencial za razvoj lesno-predelovalne industrije in seveda za razvoj lesno-predelovalnega podjetništva. Pred nekaj leti smo ustanovili, se pravi, podjetje za urejanje z državnimi gozdovi, z namenom, da bomo lahko širili lesno-predelovalno verigo, se pravi od hlodovine do končnih izdelkov, polizdelkov in izdelkov. To, da žal moram reči, da danes ugotavljamo po kar nekaj letih, da temu ni tako, da še vedno nismo vzpostavili to lesno-predelovalno verigo, še vedno izvažamo več lesa, kot bi bilo potrebno. Zato želimo, da se ta trend obrne in seveda, da damo večji poudarek na lesno-predelovalni industriji, lesnem predelovalnem podjetništvu. Zakaj? Zato, ker imamo toliko veliko lesa. Seveda pa imamo možnosti, se pravi lesena gradnja, predvsem hiše. Mi vemo, da sosedje, tako Avstrijci, tako kot Italijani in seveda tudi druge države imajo velik poudarek na leseno gradnjo. In seveda, če imamo toliko surovine, lahko mi tudi tu seveda dajemo velik poudarek. Seveda pa les ni samo za leseno gradnjo. Imamo ga lahko od spominčkov do pohištva in seveda karkoli rabimo v stanovanju ali pri infrastrukturi v Republiki Sloveniji. Mislim, da je to tisto, na katerem moramo graditi slovensko lesno podjetništvo. Nekdaj, pred neki davnimi časi ali v neki drugi družbeni ureditvi, je bila slovenska lesna industrija v samem vrhu Evrope. Žal temu ni tako, ampak verjamem, da lahko dosežemo ravno to. Seveda pa na drugi strani treba dati velik poudarek tudi, se pravi, mladim in seveda mlade nagovoriti, da se odločajo za poklicno izobraževanje na področju lesno-predelovalne industrije. Tu predvsem mislimo, kako je treba predstaviti lesno podjetništvo, lesno-predelovalno industrijo mladim. Ne zgolj na nek zastarel način, ampak to, kar dejansko je v naših podjetjih. Visokotehnološka oprema, CNC stroji, roboti, in to je tisto, katerim je treba mladim povedati, da je to na tem področju se treba izobraževati. In seveda, mnogokrat je treba tudi prepričati starše, da otroke nagovorijo, da se odločijo za ta poklic. Na drugi strani pa velikokrat sem povedal in vedno povem. Bil sem v tovarni BMW, sprejel je nas direktor te tovarne in povedal je bistveno. Začel je v tej tovarni kot vajenec, danes je doktor strojništva in vodi tovarno 7000 zaposlenimi. To je treba mladim povedati, da imajo, ne zgolj kot bodo se odločili za poklic, da je to njihova zapečatena usoda, da ostajajo v tem, ampak seveda, če imajo željo in seveda, če želijo, da se lahko pridejo tudi do teh poklicev, se lahko nadalje izobražujejo. Na Obrtno-podjetniški zbornici smo seveda prepričani, da bi morala ta 3-letna šola biti 4-letna šola, srednja šola in nekako, da bi ta šola bila na rangu tehnične šole. To se mi zdi, da je treba v prvi vrsti spremeniti. Po drugi strani pa vemo, da danes kljub temu, da imamo surovino, še naši žagarji nimajo zadost te surovine. In seveda želimo, da se to spremeni. Po drugi strani, ko govorimo o COVID vpliv na lesno panogo, moram reči, tako kot povsod, tudi na lesno-predelovalni industriji vpliva. Delamo z manjšo zmogljivostjo in seveda pričakujemo, da bo čim prej te bolezni konec in da bomo lahko normalno zaživeli. Hvala vam, da sem lahko predstavil se strani Obrtno-podjetniške zbornice našo videnje na lesno-predelovalno industrijo.
Tako, modrost pravi, da kdor hoče kam priti, se mora najprej odpraviti. Zato je zdaj čas, da zavihamo rokave in se lotimo nabiranja znanja in izkušenj strani naših priznanih predavateljev in se dodatno nalezemo občudovanja in spoštovanja do lesa. Najprej se bomo ozrli konkretno širše in si ogledali evropske in svetovne trende glede vloge lesa. Kakšne možnosti za lesno industrijo obeta Evropski zeleni dogovor? Koliko je na nivoju evropske politike les prepoznan kot trajnostni gradbeni material? Ali bodo splošne težnje po zaostrenih pogojih varovanja gozdov ovirali dostopnost do lesa kot surovine? Kakšno vlogo bo v bližnji prihodnosti v Evropi odigrala lesno-predelovalna industrija, nam bo za začetek zaupal naš prvi predavatelj. To je Patricio Antonicoli z Evropske konfederacije lesno-predelovalne industrije.
Okay, good morning. I would like first of all to greet all the participants to the Slovenia Woodworking Day and to thank, of course, the organizers of this important event, to salute as well the Slovenian cluster and very specifically greetings to my friend Igor Milavec. I would like also to underline an aspect. My speech will be quite significantly, let's say, inspired from an important work that the European woodworking industry made for the European Commission, which is a vision of the sector strategy from today to 2050. So a document was issued at the end of last year, and my intervention today will be quite significantly inspired from this document that I really encourage you to find in the web and go through it, because it's a very inspiring document. So please, next slide. Allow me, first of all, to make a picture of our sector, what I defined the starting grid. So according to the last Eurostat available data, the European woodworking industry is today synonym of about 180,000 companies, which means roughly the fourth largest manufacturing sector by number of enterprises. And it contributes to an annual turnover close to 140 billion euros and represents a workforce of 1 million workers. This is how important is to the EU economy. But accept my invitation to consider our sector in the wider panorama of the so-called FBI industry, so the forest-based industry, including as well industries manufacturing pulp and paper and other fiber-based products, but also furniture industry, printing industry, and bioenergy industries. These compounds, larger compounds, represents about 420,000 companies for a total turnover of over 520 billion euros, which is roughly 18% of bioeconomy. And this means around 3.5 million workers. And please keep in mind that 143 billion euro each year are by this compound added to the EU economy as an added value. Now, few words on the sector contribution to the climate mitigation. It is to be understood that the EU sustainably managed forest produce today an overall climate mitigation impact amounting to about 13% of the European greenhouse gas emissions. The overall climate benefits of forest and harvested wood products include the sequestration of CO2 by forest growth, thanks to sustainable forest management, as I mentioned, the carbon storage effect of harvested circular forest-based products, and the substitution effects of replacing carbon-intensive and fossil-based materials and fuels with forest-based materials. We can, I think, and you can agree with me, that we can definitely state that on a system level, this is the most efficient carbon capture and utilization system that we have today. Next, please. European woodworking industry. So let's see which role could this industry play in the 2050 European society and economy. I have listed in this slide a certain number of chapters. I would like to spend a few seconds on each of them to explain what do we mean when we say living, where do we live? It is to be known that we provide resilient, reusable, and recyclable products that can be disassembled from building system at the end of life. So using wood-based products from sustainably managed forests instead of fossil-based or GHG-intensive materials reduces fossil-based emissions. Now, in terms of eating, what do we eat? We reinvent food packaging and the food industry thanks to the forest-based flavoring, stabilizers, wood-based packaging materials, forest-based biomass, wood-based packaging materials, forest-based biomass converted into edible proteins and other nutrients. What does it mean? That sustainable production of food and food packaging is essential to a climate-friendly lifestyle. Shopping. How do we shop? Well, we provide smart, resistant, compostable, lightweight, reusable, and recyclable packaging. Paper and board will continue raising the bar, and fiber-based packaging recycling rates are today over 90%. Wearing, what do we wear? We produce textile made from wood fiber with very little environmental impact. This means that wood-based textile is the area where material substitution is expected to deliver most of the benefits in the coming years. Now, staying healthy. How do we stay healthy? Well, we make groundbreaking advancements in nanocellulose, lignin, and biochemicals-based material for new applications in the health and hygiene areas. Forest-based products provide the building blocks for novel health and care technologies. Powering way of life. How do we power our own way of life? Well, renewable heat, steam, and electricity, as well as secondary heat supplied to other users, biofuels for vehicles, boats and planes for byproducts, side streams and low-quality biomass from sustainably managed forests as a source of bioenergy. Renewable energy sources and energy efficiency applied to heat to minimize emissions and for 100% renewable-based European economy. Spending leisure time. How do we spend our leisure time? Well, we offer continued use of printed materials for leisure and education purposes. For example, forest-based products are recyclable and their circularity is maximized thanks to boosting of recycling and collection. Last but not least, workforce, jobs. Well, how do we create jobs? The forest-based industry and their value chains are green and attractive sector with the potential to create sustainable and decent jobs. Properly design and implement climate mitigation options will have substantial co-benefits in terms of employment and income generation opportunities, leading to new jobs and adding much more value to the economy, but also requiring completely new skills. We will be back later on this specific topic. Next, please. Now, of course, in the middle of this very ambitious strategy, we were affected by this terrible COVID strike. So let me take this point. I cannot, of course, avoid doing this exercise, even though I'm not going to be too long on this. You have already heard from specialists a lot of comments. I would like just to give a few data to illustrate the situation. And this data is updated to last September, so not even considering the impact of the current second wave of the pandemic that we are experiencing today. So for the pandemic impact, just few numbers. In Belgium, for example, we have accounted the minus 12% in export and minus 20% in import. I'm talking about wood and furniture sector. In Austria, it's a general minus 20% in sales. In Finland, sawn wood and plywood production has gone down by 15 and 20% respectively, and exports have gone down as well. In Italy, 94% of the companies in wood and furniture sector asked support to cover temporary unemployment, and 20% loss of revenues has been accounted at global level. Now, this having been said, the threats, it has been difficult for me to talk about threats, and I decided to join together threats and opportunities. Why? Because the biggest threat, opportunity concerning the COVID strike is that the COVID strike is what we should define a changes accelerator for putting us in the condition to speed a quicker alignment with the new European Union Green Deal framework. And I, of course, will be back on this specific point a little bit later. Let's see what has been in terms of opportunities, what has been the European Union response. The main response is that on the political level, the new European Union Green Deal is offering opportunities for the woodworking sector. Let me mention just a few. Starting by a declaration of the chair lady of the European Commission, Mrs. von der Leyen, who clearly mentioned that timber buildings have to be considered as carbon sinks. And she mentioned this important aspect in her recent State of the Union speech when referring to the Next Generation EU programs. And I will mention her words. She literally said, "We know that the construction sector can be turned from a carbon source to a carbon sink if organic building materials like wood will be applied." I have, of course, other examples that I would like to give to you in terms of EU response. For example, the Renovation Wave strategy that was published on the 14th of October 2020, so a little bit less than 1 month ago, that also pushes the accelerator on renovation activities and mentions timber in a positive way, as the objective is expanding the market for sustainable construction products and services, including the integration of new material and nature-based solutions, and revised legislation on marketing and construction products and market reuse and recovery targets. Of course, you can find easily on the web the full text of this Renovation Wave strategy. Let me, last but not least, also mention that something more will be to come in the Sustainable Built Environment Strategy, which is announced under the Circular Economy Action Plan. And in general, there seems to be a strong willingness to recognize the climate benefit of carbon stored in construction products. So, to make a conclusion, construction activities in general will benefit, but will depend on the pandemic. They picked up in the summer, but it is quite difficult to make forecasts. And in any case, it is important to have a focus on the green recovery. And also on this aspect, I will be back a little bit later in my presentation, referring to MEP Pascal Canfin call on green recovery. On the other hand, we don't have to forget that the wood production through sustainable forest management is more and more put into question by some policymakers. General pressure goes to stricter protection of forests that could hamper the raw material availability. This is something that we have to keep in mind and that we have to counter-strike. Moreover, you don't need to be told by me that the misconception about European forests are still widespread in the public, unfortunately. And this is the reason why the coming new EU forest strategy will be extremely important, because we hope that it's going to recognize the contribution of the actors in the forest value chain. At least the European Parliament report goes in this direction, but actual strategy is now postponed to 2021. The last point is how we are going to respond, how the woodworking sector is going to give a response to these threats, opportunities. Well, the woodworking response is basically to adapt to these fast changes and try to orient the strategy in order to contribute positioning the economy, the labor, and the environment in the same direction. This is the message given from the Commission, and this is the message we should, as companies in this sector, try to metabolize and to put into and to implement in our companies. This means participate actively with the European Commission, the European Parliament, in the design of new economic, industrial, and productive models. Allow me to recall that very few months ago, there was a very important initiative launched immediately after the first COVID strike by a member of the European Parliament, French member of the European Parliament, Mr. Pascal Canfin, who is chairman of the Environment Committee of the European Parliament, who launched a call aiming to build a European alliance for green recovery to support and implement the establishment of green recovery investment packages, acting as accelerators of the transition in the direction of climate neutrality and healthy ecosystems. A very last word on ecosystem. This is a concept launched by European Commissioner Thierry Breton, identifying what we used to call value chains are now called ecosystems. But we have to react as the woodworking sector isn't considered till date a real ecosystem. So this is a message that we should launch to the European authorities for requesting our sector to be considered an important ecosystem and then to be one of the beneficiaries of the plan for economic recovery, the European economic recovery. The next slide, please. So let's see which are, from our European woodworking industry, the contribution to the European Union priorities. So I mentioned Help Europe 2050 decarbonization. What do I mean? I mean how to decarbonize Europe by substituting critical or CO2 intensive raw material and fossil energy with forest-based alternatives. Eradicate waste means eradicate waste in the circular economy by closing material loops with the sector target of at least 90% material collection and 70% recycling rate. Then drive resource efficiency in the forest-based industries' industrial value chains by enhancing productivity in all areas, including materials, manufacturing, and logistics. Then meet the increasing demand of raw materials by maximizing secondary streams and ensuring primary raw material supply from sustainably managed forests. This is a concept that I have been repeating several times today. And last but not least, satisfy the growing demand of climate-friendly products by increasing the use of wood and wood-based products in our daily life. What does it mean? Building further the current trend of using sustainable wood-based products in our daily activities and by developing innovative, high added value products, we will grow the forest-based industry market by a significant percentage every year that has been estimated to 3%. Next slide, please. So, which are the challenges that we have to face to try to turn this vision into a reality? Well, first of all, change of perceptions about the wood and wood-based products as an old traditional industry and not yet seen as a cutting-edge, innovative, and future one. Then the need for technological solution, breakthrough, that would radically change the production processes. Then, of course, overcome market distortions by subsidies that would obstruct a level playing field. And then, of course, R&D, meaning limited public and private funding on the agreed research and innovation priorities. We must, of course, overcome this challenge of R&D. Workforce, we have a shortage of skilled workforce in the pulp and paper, printing, wood and furniture sectors. So this is another challenge to overcome. Data and gaps and knowledge base gaps as well. This is something we need to overcome. And last but not least, acceptance of recyclability protocols at European level and a better understanding of the need to keep certain waste fractions separate from each other for their further recycling. Next, please. So, what we can expect, this is not the magic formula, but we have identified a certain number of pathways and solution areas to reach this ambitious target of 2050. First of all, developed market. What does it mean? Consumption of forest-based industry products will grow thanks to a mix of increased consumer awareness and supportive product policies based on robust assessment of greenhouse gases product footprint over the entire life cycle. Then ensure sustainability supply of raw material. What do we mean? Provide woody biomass for sustainably managed forest in the right quantity and quality by optimizing woody biomass growth and ensuring sufficient provision of woody biomass to the markets. Increase, of course, as well, secondary raw material supply for wood-based products. Then boost innovation. This is a crucial element. The forest-based sector technological platform, well known as FBI platform, in its 2040 vision and 2030 strategic research and innovation agenda, provides the first 10-year scheme towards the realization of the FBI vision for 2050. I invite you also to go through that very important document. There is a need of a framework on research, innovation and development of the sector, including the need to assess the potential for strategic investment projects across Europe, and additional funding is required to de-risk and deploy all the investment. Last but not least, the cross-cutting partnership. It's need to put in place a set of horizontal issues and cross-cutting. The three pathways mentioned before are market, resource, and technology, and we will need to be addressed by each of these areas. These include the availability of further development of science-based data and methodologies, the social dimension and skills agenda, social dimension crucial for the change of skills and profiles for the workforce, as well as awareness rising and communication in the value chain. Next slide, please. Well, conclusions. It is difficult to provide conclusion. These are more than conclusion. These are elements for stimulating, food for thought. We should, of course, fight responsibly the pandemic and accept it to be a changes accelerator, as mentioned before. Support and accompany and help the EU Green Deal, so be aside the institutions to develop this ambitious program and the process, and then turn the European woodworking sector into a real green, resilient, and digital industry. These are the key words for our future. And as I said in the very beginning, create a unique platform to orient our economy, our labor force, and our environment in the same direction, not dividing this concept, but putting them exactly on the same track to have a unity of thoughts and unity of common actions.
Thank you very much. Najlepša hvala. To je bil Patricio Antonicoli iz Evropske konfederacije lesno-predelovalne industrije. Pred nami je uvodno predavanje gosta iz tujine. Tokrat gremo v državo, kjer je uporaba lesa v gradbeništvu nekaj najbolj normalnega, saj ga imajo v izobilju. Finska je ena vodilnih držav po znanju o leseni gradnji, dobre prakse ter primere, ki izhajajo iz njihovega nacionalnega programa za pospeševanje lesne gradnje, pa nam zdaj prinaša Petri Heino z finskega ministrstva za okolje.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce myself? I'm Petri Heino. I'm the program director of the National Wood Building Program in Finland. Program is to promote the use of wood and timber in construction in Finland. Next. Here are a variety of examples of how wood is used in building and construction in Finland today. We build most of our single-family homes, farmhouses, small halls and libraries and these kind of public buildings also in wood. And what we are now advancing a lot is to use wood for multi-story construction with different technologies. You can see there a modular construction technology used. You can see panelized systems used. We are also building large span storage halls and buildings, bridges. And at the bottom, you can see a little bit of our speciality, which is horizontal log, industrial log construction, which is also advancing from smaller buildings and single-family homes into public buildings and also into multi-story construction. There is a boom going on at the moment in development of different technologies. All the technical aspects to build 14 stories high apartment building have been solved. We are gaining efficiency in the costs and also in the production time and the time that the whole project is going through and advancing a lot. Next. To promote the use of wood is based on the National Energy and Climate Strategy. There are several reasons why building with wood is part of a climate strategy, but we also have to always remember that the prefabricated industrial way to build with wood is also developing the building industry to become more material efficient, energy efficient, production-wise efficient, and faster, and at the same time with the better quality. Next. Finland wants to be carbon neutral by 2031, and at the same time, and with what goes together well with the wood construction, is the development of the circular economy. Wood is naturally part of natural circular cycle, but what needs to be developed is the technical circular cycle of wooden building parts and wood. Next. The Nordic countries are in the building in the societies and also of the building culture quite similar. We do lots of cooperation, and these sentences are from a joint work that's been done between the Nordic countries of what is needed for the green transition. We share same values, and we see that these themes, that climate neutrality, and also that there is less chemicals used in the built environment, that there is climate neutral communities, and that this is based on a legislation to direct the building sector into climate neutral direction, and that also then there is to be recognized that we are using natural resources, and biodiversity is a key issue to be considered. Next. In all the Nordic countries, we are approaching with the life cycle approach to buildings. Next slide. That means that the life cycle emissions, life cycle effects to the environment will be regulated. And this is jointly done in the Nordic countries, but the time schedule is a little bit different in different countries. In Finland, we will have a carbon footprint limits on building regulations before 2025. So they will be norms in place in 2024. Some countries are moving faster in this. And we see that this is definitely driving the building sector, which we know is a huge user of natural resources, energy, and causes lots of waste, that through the regulatory and changes and guidance, this can be changed. Next. It needs, of course, methods. It needs experience on how to calculate it. It needs guidance for a public sector, how to procure a low carbon building. I see that it is a huge change for the value chain in the building sector to take also this carbon footprint into account. Next. In Finland, the Ministry of the Environment is responsible for legislative and policy preparation for the built environment, for housing, etc. That's why it's natural that the wood building program is located at the Ministry of the Environment. Of course, there are other responsibilities also regarding the nature conservation and etc. Different departments. And at the moment, the program will continue until 2022, and the goal is to promote the growth of competitive industrial wood construction know-how and production in Finland, so that we are able to build Finland in wood more than it's now done, and then also sell building parts and buildings into Europe, Asia, and North America. The other goal is to promote the long-term carbon storage in timber structures. That would support the responsible use of forest resources. We try to increase the carbon in the built environment, and that it would act as like a sink when the storage grows. Then it's calculated as a sink, and that would benefit our whole carbon neutrality goal. There are special targets that we follow. The key issues are the wooden apartment buildings, then the carbon storage, and that it would be industrial prefabrication and to develop this sector, and that the public sector would be actively included, and then the exports we follow. Next. This program is knowledge sharing, it's persuasive program. we have a limited amount of financial instruments to use, but just a little bit. So there are things that we focus, like changing attitudes, opening up attitudes, and supporting knowledge and education sector, and internationally networked R&D activities. Next. In this budget year, we received further funding for the project, and we reorganized a little bit it, and then we have three main sub-programs. It's to support the industry to develop these solutions, then to support the public sector, that they have knowledge to increase the use of wood, and also how they can promote the use of wood or make sure that in their cities the wood is used also by the private sector, and then to support the educational sector to develop their education within the wood and wood construction sector. Next. We have quite big goals, ambitious goals. It's to double the use of wood in construction by 2023. There will be a new election then, and it's a huge task, but we are working on it. And one tool is that we have set the goals for public wood construction. We want the public sector to be a leader, and there we are looking at that of all the public wood construction, 45% would be wood-based construction by the year 2025. There is also other funding for development of the industry and the value chain, and also of the export possibilities. Next. There is a tool to promote the use of wood through the State Housing Fund, and we offer increased startup grants for special types of dwellings, and this is just what is new coming this year. And I'm curious to see how well this it's not a huge financial aid, but it's a little bit of support to the builders. Next. But we have been delighted to hear from the Commission and EU positive messages regarding the Green Deal and the Green Taxonomy, and also the latest of this renovation wave and the new European Bauhaus. It's realized that the wood as a material has several benefits when used more in the construction. And this is something that we all should now work together on to really materialize these sentences into projects and funding for our wood construction value chain and value network. This was my last slide. Next, you can show this is the end of my presentation. I thank you very much for your interest. I'm happy to answer questions how it is possible. There is my email, petri.heino@ym.fi, and I'm eager to hear also the other presentations. Thank you very much.